And good afternoon, everyone. You are here for another episode of Business Acceleration Playbook, where we are bringing you the plays that you need to win in your business. And today I am joined by beautiful co-hosts, Angela Buckley and Stacey Pryce. I just want to give a shout out to Chanel Rose. She had an unexpected family health emergency, so she was unable to hop on here today. So I want to send some healing vibes and prayers her way for her family member. You know, it's kind of one of those moments just in life where things happen and you can't really plan for them. And we talk a lot about business on here, but all of us have personal lives as well. And there's things that come up and, you know, health emergencies happen. Any kind of emergency can happen. I mean, a busted pipe, flat tire, that's part of life as well. So I think going with the flow is also part of maintaining a healthy business. So I think it's important to kind of embrace that as well when you're talking about, you know, business ownership and entrepreneurship, that you're not going to ever have those perfect days, those perfect weeks. We all hit bumps in the road. We all fall flat on our face. And the key is that you figure out, well, what went wrong if something went wrong, or where maybe you can pre-plan for the next time. And, you know, sometimes there's no planning. Like today, Chanel was ready to go. She's ready to come on here, and boom, something goes on. So, you know, that's just part of that. But Chanel, we love you. We miss you. But, well, here's the thing. She's the money honey. We are not the money honey. So we were going to be talking money today. So Angela and I were kind of having a panic attack before we went live. But you know what? We're going to make it happen. I told the truth. We were. We're like, it's the money. But you know what? We're not the money honey. We can't be Chanel. But here's what we do know. Angela has a very, very important topic to talk about. That is finance related, money related. And I am great at being resourceful with money and be able to take a small budget and make it stretch. So those are some aspects that we can talk about. We can high level mention some things about funding and credit, even though those are not our, you know, super deep passions. Angela, I'm gonna let you kind of jump in, because the reason I didn't mention what you're because I didn't remember what you said you were going to talk about. That was why
That's
it jumped
okay.
on my brain.
That's all right.
So go ahead.
I'm good. I'm excited about actually. So my consulting is called Creatively Efficient. And the reason we talk about creatively efficiency is that we're talking about how to take a lot of the lean operational tools to understand costs in your business, the values in your business, the value added activities, and how you can reduce costs, eliminate things that are called non-value add. We call them NVAA, or build in the value add and really capitalize on that. And my expertise and specialty really within the manufacturing world is focusing on eliminating non-value add activities and highlighting and really maximizing, optimizing our activities that are value add, right? So first of all, we start with defining what that is, both on a financial aspect, but also with respect to the customer. So anything that the customer is paying for, this is a value add activity, but there's a lot of things that we have to do in order to get to a point where the customer is paying for that, right? Like the customer, they don't really want to pay for shipping, but I have to buy my parts, and my parts have to come to my plant. And I pay for that shipping, right? That intermediate cost, I pay for that. Somebody pays for that. Ultimately, the customer pays for that. But guess what? The customer wants the part. They don't want to pay for the shipping. So how do I focus my activities on eliminating the cost associated with shipping? Someone has to take it out of this packaging and put it over here so that guy can assemble it, right? This in-between steps, that's not really what the customer wants to pay for. The customer wants to pay for the part as it's assembled. So that assembly, that activity, that's considered a value add activity, because the part by itself isn't good, but the part in the whole package, maybe I should back away from my computer screen, and the whole package is useful, right? Like that's what we're selling, a final package that is really designed to delight our customer. And we're focusing on doing it the first time correctly, without any sort of safety defects, without any sort of quality defects. That's really there so that the customer can literally plug in and go. That's what we really, that is the dream of every manufacturer everywhere. I delivered it to you. There's no recycling, there's no breakdown, there's no nothing. They plug it in and everything goes. There's literally millions of people behind all of that to get that to happen for you. And that all of that work, every single person that has their finger in the pie costs me money. How do I help you reduce that cost so that the customer gets a higher quality product at a lower price? So these are things that are at the very big corporate level, millions of dollars, billions of dollars worldwide that we talk about. But on an entrepreneurial level, what does that look like? That might be talking about some of the processes. You hear me talk a lot of times about processes and how many times did you touch the customer with your emails? Can you optimize your email train? Can you optimize your marketing train? Can you figure out how to bring somebody in to do something more efficiently? For example, Maria, awesome in marketing. Angela, not so much awesome in marketing, right? Like I'd rather have somebody come in and do that element for me while I work on that heavy technical stuff, which I love, and I'm actually kind of good at, right? And I'm fast at, probably faster than Maria. So how do we optimize? How do we optimize our time? How do we optimize our activities so that the optimum product gets to the customer? And that's when I focus on cost, when I focus on money, that's my part of the pie. That's the piece of it, right? So I could talk for hours, months, probably years on this topic.
We don't have that long, but
I know you don't have that long. So we're going to just pick out
a few. No, I'm just kidding.
We're going to just pick out a few of those elements today as they pertain to the startup entrepreneur.
Absolutely. And I think it's a good place to kind of segue in with you, Stacey, because for people that tuned in last week, this is Stacey Pryce, and she was given a challenge. Hey, Stacey. She was given a challenge as a new entrepreneur / small business owner. She was challenged to go ahead and take what she had created and launch it out there, which, Stacey, I'm going to let you, actually, I'm not going to tell how you felt, even though I kind of know some of it. I'm going to let you jump in and tell how you felt, but I think I did. So I'm going to let you go ahead and jump in and say that, but I think that's a good way to kind of tie it together because, you know, for somebody like Stacey that's just starting out, she does need to optimize her touch points. She does need to optimize the time spent on things. So I think we could tie it back in with the money at that point. But Stacey, I'm going to let you jump in and give us kind of a little bit of a sneak peek on, you know, your challenge, how you felt, etc. That way people who are still sitting on their great idea and waiting to kind of for the perfect time, quote unquote, to launch it out there, that maybe you can help them through that mental block to be able to go ahead and take the leap, because that was what our show last week was about, is take the leap.
Yeah, it was a great show to be on. So thanks for, having me on as a guest person, because I was just like, oh my God, am I ready for this? You know what I mean? It's like that, I started to get in my head. That's really what it was. And so when you and Chanel were like, yo, like, what is it? You know what I mean? I was like, oh, you mean I got to say it like right now? Like, so, I think it was actually, yeah, you saw my face. Like I was like terrified. And the fear came from, I think what a lot of people go through, which is we're thinking like 10 years ahead and not like right now. Like I'm thinking like, who is it? All those questions that you asked me, like, who is it for? Like, how much is it? Like, what is it? And I'm like, oh my God. So I pretty much discussed, Price Up Coaching, which is focused on the customer experience and the people that are providing or part of the customer experience, which are the leaders, and how important it is to have that synergy between both, because one affects the other. Yeah. So you guys pretty much were like, look, like, tell us what it is, do these videos. So I went to TikTok because I knew that I was actually curious about something, because I think with anything, you kind of have to just jump in and try it. And that's what last week was about. So I said, you know what? The whole point of this is to share the knowledge I gained over 17 years of customer care experience and how that can apply to a business owner to not only treat their customers, or I should say understand the customer better or more effectively, but also to understand that the employee is also a customer and how to manifest that in your business. So I just kind of started to put out different ideas, and I found something actually on Pinterest on like what was creating a toxic work environment. And I found that interesting because I've experienced different work environments. But my thing is, it's great to kind of like be like, okay, this is toxic, but how do you fix it? You know what I mean? And I think some people are like, oh, I gotta go, because that was my, experience last year. I was like, I just gotta get the heck out of here. You know what I mean? But you could actually be the person that helps to work towards a better functioning atmosphere instead of just leaving. And I think that's kind of what we're all learning, that, through different struggles, whether it's in business ownership, life, friendship, any relationship that you have, that instead of just jumping up and leaving, there may be moments to create something better. So it's actually an advantage or something that can actually be turned around. So long story short, I started sharing it on TikTok, and it was quite interesting because by me going through this challenge, I learned different parts of myself, and I realized that there is a market for this. Like, there are people that are interested in developing their call center or business and helping that to create that synergy. So my video, the first video I posted, I think got like 500 and something like views. Yep. And then it just kept on going up, and it freaked me out, which is kind of funny.
You're like, oh!
Yeah, but the fear came from, I guess the responsibility of it, and knowing, and for some reason in my head, it's like, you must be the expert. You have to know all the things. And I realized that it's a learning experience. Like, all of this is a learning experience. I'm not perfect, but I do have information that can help. But I feel like with sharing that information, it's like, that's where you're creating that synergy, because I'm learning along the way, but also helping along the way.
And I think that's amazing. And first of all, nobody knows all the things. Angela is like probably the smartest person I know, and she still doesn't know all the things. She knows a lot of the things, but not all the things. So, right. But I think we all do get in our heads a lot of times, and we get that, imposter syndrome is a phrase that's been thrown around a lot. But I mean, I think it's important that it's been thrown around, just because I don't know anybody that hasn't had moments of that, to sit there and say, who am I to teach this? Who am I to be able to give this advice? Who am I? But I think our failures along the way go right along with our triumphs along the way to create, a vision, a story, a message that is going to connect you with your right people. And I think that's what you're starting to see, with the people that are tuning in and viewing to your message. And I know that there is that response, because I remember feeling that myself, like, oh my gosh, there's people, when it's like one or two people, you're like, yeah, people. But then when it starts going up, you're like, oh, people.
Yeah, you're like, oh, like you're really paying attention. Oh,
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You feel like you're under a magnifying glass at that point. But,
right.
It's something you have to constantly kind of work on with yourself. But I love, number one, that you did it afraid, you took the leap, and that you did it. And you're seeing some reactions from what I assume is your people that are needing to hear your message, your story from you. And I think that's huge. So congrats on that. But I do want to kind of tie it back to the money topic. And
like, what do I do now?
Angela gave a lot. Actually, whatever you're talking about, I'm like, you're going to handle this money episode just fine. I didn't even realize that all that was going to come out of your mouth. So apparently before the show, it was just me that was having a panic attack for no reason, because I mean, money is a necessary thing. I realize that, but it's not my jam. So anyway, I'm going to let Angela take the reins on this. And Angela, help guide Stacey on maybe some things that she can think about as she's really developing this new business, because she's already got her message. She has her high level why and what she's doing. So now is where a lot of business owners make the mistake of spending money in wrong places. So I think it's like, this is the prime moment where maybe we can guide Stacey a little bit.
Okay. So number one, I think we need to start with a budget. And you start with everything that you're currently doing, right? Do you have this on paper? Because I just want to say, so many people that I meet with, their first version is, I know I have. And then when I say, well, let me see it, it's in their head or it's in their credit cards or whatever. But truly, you remember, I don't know, maybe I'm old right here. I'm going to say something. Check registers, right? Like we used to write them down. You would write a check and then you'd come over here and put it in a piece of paper, like in that book, that register. My sister still keeps
people
one of
don't
those.
do that still. I thought that was, I do that still. I still do it.
My sister does it. I don't. I keep spreadsheets. My sister literally writes everything down in a book.
Of course you do. But anyway, go ahead. She's like, I don't do that. I keep spreadsheets.
I'm a spreadsheet. Yeah. If there's paper involved, it's because I'm taking my journal. That's it. After the journal, there's no paper. But start with where you're at. Go through your credit cards for the last 2 or 3 years and put everything in and ask yourself, what is the must-have and what is the need to have? And then I was talking earlier about value add, right? So what is adding value to your business? And what is something that you obviously have to do for the business, but it maybe isn't adding value to the customer? So
you mean like Uber Eats? No,
Uber Eats is not adding value to anybody except your hips.
I need food, Angela. I'm just kidding. I understand. Continue.
I'm going to introduce you to Sunday prep. I'll even have a worksheet to send for you.
Sounds good.
But I do that too because I'm nerdy that way. Sunday prep food is the way for me because I can't stand spending money on fast food that's not as nutritious. It's more expensive. And honestly, it's not that fast. But I will say that it's nice to sit and have someone wait on you. There's value, right? But it's not fast. It's convenient.
Right.
Like, let's be clear. But if you do a Sunday prep on Sunday, you will have a healthier version, a cleaner kitchen all through the week, quicker. I think Chanel and I have talked about that in the past. Yeah. But okay.
Sunday's what I do too. So see, now you have to do it, Stacey. It's a rule.
Stacey, pressure.
I'm literally taking notes.
Okay. But again, moderately off topic here. So, but the point is that we need to make sure that we have the budget, right? Like it's okay. And if eating out once a week is part of your budget, then eating out once a week is part of your budget. Like mine is a Friday. I make a point of taking a colleague to work every Friday for lunch, a colleague at work to lunch on Friday. That's a part of my budget.
Yeah.
It's okay. That's because usually by Friday, my Sunday prep is, no longer in the fridge or I got tired of it. So Friday it is, right? And it's a good time to take 90 minutes and connect with colleagues and whatever else. So I build that into my budget for the month. So, okay. But I include in my small business budget, my Canva. And it only hits my budget once a year because I do the annual subscription, but I have to be prepared for it. I use Camtasia for my tech, right? For my video processing. I would like that. It's almost the same price as Canva. So I want it to hit in a different month. So if I have a bunch of these annual subscriptions, but I would like each one of them to hit it in a different month because it's easier for me to budget that way. So what are the different things that you think you need to have that are developing? Many of us are online entrepreneurs. We have to develop content. What are you doing to help support that content that's value add? What is the time associated with your value add, right? What are you doing actually in your business? Are you developing content? I personally love developing content a lot more than actually going live and doing some of those videos and everything else. I want a worksheet. I feel like if there's not a worksheet, I didn't do anything, right? So for me, that's an important service that I deliver to people, right? To my customers. So they are coming in and they walk away with something. Instead of just taking notes, they have something in their hand that they took notes on. Even if that's a printout or something. So for me, that is a value add, and I need that. It helps me be a better coach. I hope that it helps my clients. They seem to come back, so that's okay. So where is that, right? So what do you define for that value add? What are the costs associated with that, including your hours? And then you start asking yourself, what can you eliminate? But write it down, like take the exercise on a piece of paper or a spreadsheet
Right.
Just talking about it doesn't get you anywhere, right?
Right.
So I play in my silly German band, right? Where we have a lot of fun doing polka for 2 months of the year.
That's awesome.
But once a year, we sit down and we have a planning session. We eat sausage and put all the music all over the floor. The house is a mess. And pick out what we're going to be playing, what kind of festivals we'd like to target for something new. What are the costs? What can we do differently? What worked well for last year? Do we wear the right color shirts for the venues that we're playing in? Like, no one else cares. I'm the only one who cares about the visual, but I care.
Oh, that's important.
See pictures. My guys are like, yes, Angela, whatever you tell me to wear, this is what I'll wear. So, but I have to budget for that too. Like I know my guys' sizes. I know what they have in their closets and what we want to add to them relative to the messaging and the look that we want to have in the upcoming year. It's hard to remain relevant when you're at a certain age, right? Like we have to keep going. We got to keep working on it and we have to budget for it. It matters. So
Roger that.
all of that gets written on paper. Some of that gets a few eye rolls as we go, but for that group, music is a budget, new music is a budget, printing is a budget, right? We have to print them out and laminate them and make sure that we have enough books for the different people that are playing the different concerts. I lecture at universities. My content for a university is very different and takes a lot more time to develop, right? The guys, when they're out there drinking beer, those are a little easier conversations.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of have the same joke every time. But when I'm at a university, I actually have to deliver content with details and facts and history and citations and everything. It takes more time. So what am I going to do? And I also want to charge. I charge differently for those activities. So now you're talking about all the costs, and now you have to think about return on investment. Okay, so now I'm talking about my costs. I'm aligning my costs into value add, non-value add, and certain things, because life is always gray. It's not 100% good or bad, right? Like cost. Right. So then we also have semi-value add. What's that mean? So I have to take the wrapper off in order to assemble my part, because I can't just assemble it in the wrapper, right? Okay, so there's some of that assembly, that's value add, but taking the wrapper off is non-value add. So how do I break some of that down? So if you get into a grade point, then put something in between, like rank them 1, 2, and 3. Work on the ones that are non-value add first, work on the semi-value add next, right? You do all of those things. Put all of that into that, start ranking them, reduce the ones that don't work for you, and do more of the good. I know it's interesting. It sounds very simple, right? Obviously, don't do the costly things. Do the things make you money.
I don't think it sounds simple. She's like, sounds so simple. I'm like, over here, my brain's like,
in my
but
head,
it's hard.
Sounds simple, but I think the execution is where it's like, there's like, it's not necessarily like, I don't want to say it's a sacrifice, like, but I mean, that's kind of the word sometimes, depending on, like, for me transitioning from working for someone to working on my own. In this sense, what I'm hearing is like, it's about a lot of planning, knowing what you're doing and why, making sure that you have that written down so you have a constant. But then also it's about, you want some type of return here, like you're saying, return of investment, but it's like that recycling symbol. It's like in, out. So I love the way you're saying it, because the way in my brain, it's like I'm literally making this, like, literally I see the recycling symbol and I see these different components here. So it seems like with going into this business adventure, I'm also seeing that there's a lot of lifestyle changes that also have to go into this, because it's almost like you and the business are becoming one in a sense. Like, would you say that?
I would.
I think so.
I definitely think that that's a good analogy, because, and I know, Stacey, you and I have even talked about this on other levels, that I try to keep my personal life and my business life separate. And that was expensive, ridiculous, impossible, all the things. You can't completely separate them because and I think it's because of what you just said, is that because of, if you go through all the steps like Angela's saying, you have to integrate your life at home in with your business life. So there we go, to be able to get it to work together. And that was the reason, like early on, she was talking about meal prep Sundays. I know for me and my family, if I miss, because this happened, we get busy, I'm tired, I don't quote unquote feel like it that day, I'll do it later. We all know later means never. I mean, let's be honest.
Goodness, later? Yeah.
So and if I don't do it, I am off all week long. It affects my mood, it affects my sleep, it affects my personality. Just ask my husband. It affects everything because I'm missing a meal prep. And it seems silly because it's like, what the heck does that have to do with all the other things? But it's because when you do things in bulk, not only do, number one, you save money because you're making things in bulk. Number two, you save time, which time is money. But also you're able to take that, Chanel mentioned it last week about or the week before, about mental space.
Right.
You remove that completely from your brain. And let me tell you, you both know me well enough to know now that my brain is full all the time. It needs whatever space I can give it at any given time. It needs it. So, all right, let's go back. Let's see. Angela, what you got there? Go ahead.
What you got?
So there is, in lean methodology, there's a process called 5S. And it comes from the Japanese of Shiryu-Sutu, a whole bunch of other Japanese words. We'll skip them for the moment. English quick translation. We start with sorting at the top, and then we set things in order, and then we shine, i.e. clean. My hand. And then we standardize, and then we sustain that. And the reason I really like to start with new people using the 5S is because on the one hand, it helps me introduce a methodology. On the other hand, it's simple to understand once you break down the steps. And lastly, it really helps you develop a mindset around a disciplined approach. And so what we're talking about, I know we jumped right in because we were talking costs today with the NVAA, but when we talk about sorting, have you ever gone down in your basement and said, oh my, right? Like, I need to understand, here's the Christmas, here's the Halloween, here's the stuff that we definitely don't need anymore, but somehow just never managed to walk out the door, right? Like sorting, the first thing that you do in your business, in your budget, first of all, you get it all into that one location, right? That's what we just did. We just did brain dump of all your costs. Now we're sorting and we're talking about the ones that are bringing you value, the ones that are not bringing you value. Kick out to the curb the ones that aren't bringing you value. That's the sort part. Now we're going to set them in order. We're going to rank those ones that we want to work on to optimize, right? Now we're going to shine that up. Hey, we're optimizing this, but what does that actually really mean for us? Is it someone else does that better? Do I need to take a class so that I can do that better? Do I need a partner, right? A lot of the content that I do, honestly, it's better for somebody else to sell it than for me to sell it, right? So where's the shine? Where's that work? And then your standardizing means creating these processes, and these sustaining means that you're checking in. Are you having a regular business meeting with yourself? I'm just going to raise my hand and say that when I first started my business, nope, there was no business meeting with myself. There were no metrics. There was no... I just said I was going to go and do, and I went and did, and I didn't make as much money as I wanted to, right? My second business, I did a lot better, and I made more money in 1 month than I made in my entire first business, right? So I learned something, but learning how to understand, sustain is money in this case, we're applying it. So there's probably somebody over there flipping in a grave because I'm applying this differently than what it's really intended. But the mindset part of that's still really important. You can apply it to how your money and how your budget is working. You can do this in many different settings, but you have to have money coming in order for your money to go out, right? Understanding what that cash flow is part of that sustain process. Now, in true lean manufacturing, when we talk about this 5S method, that sustain is an audit. It's a checklist. And I'm going out and I'm asking people, are they following the first 4 steps? And if they're not, what do we need to do to get back on track? So consider that sustain your business meeting with yourself or your coach, right? Like get a coach. Coaches, they're worth their money.
There they are.
Because they're asking the questions that you may not want to ask yourself. I mean, I'm guilty.
Or you may avoid. You avoid them. You're like, I don't know. Because you know the answer.
Sometimes you have to have the hard conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
So how can you take like this very simple mindset? We apply it to many, many different applications. And in this case, bring this in and say, all right, I want to understand where my budget is, where I want my budget to grow, what I need to keep, what I need to not keep. And I know I repeat that frequently, but you ask yourself different every time, right? Like there's tweaks. We talk about taking a leap, but you also have to talk about being flexible and agile. And today we're 3 instead of 4. Guess what? We're going to keep moving, right? So what does that mean? Does it change how we're going to respond to something? Yes, that's okay, but we're going to keep going, right? And then we plan for it so the next time we're ready for it when it happens. That's okay too. So taking all of that, taking these as general concepts, like I have definitely more tactical when we're talking about what that looks like in a manufacturing setting or in an organization of a desk. But for this kind of a more conceptual, strategic approach, it also works. You just apply it slightly differently.
I like that. That's why I actually text Stacey. I was like, ooh, we ought to get that on like a worksheet. Yeah. You may have one on a worksheet. All right. I like that, to be able to give them a visual.
I might have one of those. Yeah.
So just to give a visual, because a lot of people are visual, and I think you broke it down into easy bite-sized steps that even anybody that's starting out would understand the basic high-level reasons and the how-tos of doing that. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that. Stacey, you're beginning. Do you understand how she's kind of broken that down? I guess it's better to ask. Yeah.
Absolutely. I 100% understand that it's literally about, it's not only, to me, the way I interpret it, it's not only like soul searching, but it's like looking at your habits and practices and questioning yourself. Do these habits and practices either pull me forward to what I want or move me against it? And I think that's a good way to see it, because it's not necessarily like that positive, negative thing. But I mean, this is absolutely something that I need to personally look into as I build out this coaching thing, because I want to make sure that I'm, I can provide value all day long, but what is my return? How am I actually getting that return? Because the whole point of it is to make it a business or to be that business owner. But, if I'm sitting here making content, like what's the value of that content? Because if I'm providing the value, like visually or verbally, like, am I getting a return? Is it getting clients? If not, what do I need to do to make sure that I am speaking to the people that are going to provide me that? Because it's a win-win in that recycling thing. That's how I'm absorbing.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way of saying that. And, I think that kind of leads me into one of the things I wanted to make sure I mentioned, just from a business owner standpoint, especially at the beginning, there's a lot of wasted dollars because, and I'm speaking for myself too, because I did this early on, and that's the reason I kind of tell people don't do this now, is you think you have to do all the things. You think you have to do everything, because I think a lot of early business owners think that it works almost like an ATM machine. It's like you're putting money into it and you're going to be able to get that money out of it. And you figure out pretty darn quickly that's not exactly how it works. No. And there's specific things like Angela was mentioning earlier that are value add. Hiring a coach, I believe in that wholeheartedly, just because, as you're going around that list, if you can see, I don't know if you'll be listening to this, if you're listening to the podcast and you can't see this, but she's got it kind of written in a recycling form. But when you're looking around, there's probably going to be certain pieces of that you're like, yeah, I got that, I'm great at that. And other pieces you're like, like I'm sitting there looking at standardized, that is not my strength. I know this is not my strength. It is not my strength. And you're going to have pieces that aren't.
Right. That's why I'm there. I'm there for standardize and sustain. Call me in.
Yep. And I think that was kind of part of the bigger point, was that, when you're thinking of value add, spend your dollars in the parts that you're not good at. If it's something that you're good at and you don't have the dollars to hire out all the things, focus your energy and time on the things that you're good at, and get those done, and use your dollars to hire in and outsource for things that you suck at, because I didn't do that early enough and I was hitting a brick wall. That was one of the reasons I was nervous about doing this money talk with Chanel not being here, because I was like, good Lord, I have an accountant. Why do I have an accountant? Because numbers make my brain hurt. I don't want to do anything to do with money. I like money. It's not that I don't like money. I like it. But numbers make my brain hurt. And I don't want to do it. I have an accountant and we're all happy. I'm not in prison for taxes. It works out for everybody. So, I think that's one of those things that it is worth it to me to pay my accountant to do that, because I'm not good at it. And no amount of me staring at it all day long is going to make me, number one, like it, number two, be good at it. I'm not. I can make money. I'm good at making money. My brain doesn't, I think it goes right back, honestly, to the standardized portion. My brain doesn't want to sit there. It doesn't want to do the same thing over and over. If I have to do the same thing over and over, Maria's brain is like, we out. So, and I think it's learning those things about yourself, which is going to go right back into, what was that? The portion that you were talking about where you sort, I can't read the word. The portion where you're kind of sorting things out, I guess that would be sort. Yeah, be within, okay, I can't say it very well. So within sort. No, you're fine. My screen's far away, But yeah, so go within that portion of sorting it out. Okay, is this something that I'm good at? Go back to what Angela was saying. Number one was to figure out your budget. So how much money do I have? How many things can I potentially get with this? And don't overlook bartering. There's a lot of bartering that goes on within small business owners getting started out. And I think a lot of people don't talk about that. And I think it's fabulous. I bartered all the time with people early on, because you can barter, especially if somebody has opposites on what you're good at. I bartered all the time. People would call me in to do something I was great at. I would call them to do something they were great at. It was a win-win. And I think that you need to kind of look at your budget and figure out, okay, well, do I have the dollars to spend on it? Is it something that I can barter out and, instead spend time instead of the dollars? And I think all in all, it's just sitting down and taking that time to really ask yourself these questions.
No, absolutely, 110%. It's so funny. It's like I feel like my brain's connecting the dots. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna need to hire this person, and okay, I need this person. Because literally, I have fun doing what I do, which is helping people understand who they are in what they do, as far as with helping a customer or marketing to a customer. That's what I enjoy. So I'm like, okay, I just want to do that. I don't want to do any money. I don't want to sit there and be like, how are we gonna do this? I just want somebody to be like, Stacey, what's the content for today? And if somebody goes here we go. They just oh, I got you on a speaking engagement. Oh, I got you on this. All right, go here. All right, great.
So Stacey, it's interesting. My friend started his business basically being a fractional CEO, right? Okay. And effectively what he's been doing is going around to small businesses and just having quarterly check-ins. He runs their quarterly check-ins and says, okay, show me your budget, show me your income. Let's go through these kind of together. He's not doing the accounting. He's looking at the metrics with the people. And the bigger companies, of course, monthly and whatever else, but teaching them how to identify what those metrics are and then how to work towards the goals that you have for the upcoming years. And that's, depending on what your salary is and what you're looking for, to have a fractional CFO and a virtual assistant, that's not a bad starting point. And you can buy virtual assistant packages 10 hours. Yeah. Right. Buy them 10 hours at a time. And as you get a little bit better and you understand that person, you don't have to use them all in the month, or maybe you do use them all in a month. You don't know at the beginning. I don't even know. Sometimes I don't even know. Right. And but they're showing and revealing their strengths to you. And as you dip your fingers in, you find the right person, the right fit, and you use that as part of your growth. But you can include that in your budget development. And a good CFO is going to tell you, or CEO, fractional CEO is going to be you need to sell for this much in order to basically afford me, right? They're going to push you because they want to get paid also. Generally, that's a good thing in business, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a win-win for me.
Today's the money show, right? So in general,
money show. Getting paid is a big part of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I think that brings us to another good point I wanted to hit on is that you need to be okay with asking for the sale. And I know that is so hard. You wouldn't think it would be hard. It's like everybody's like, I got a business. I need to make some money. I got a business. I need to make some money. But then when it comes down to the sell, they almost negotiate themselves out of. They're like, well, I mean, I know it's not worth it to you, but if you want it, it's this much.
I'm just going to hire Chanel. I'm just going to be like,
yeah, Chanel. If she was there, she'd be like, no, you want this.
Just have her stand in and talk.
Yeah.
Like, where is
you
it?
want this? You need this. Give me your credit card. You know, and you need to be like that, and because.
Right.
Honestly, if you believe in your product and you know who your target is, you know, you have to think of it in such a way that if you don't kind of connect the dots between your product and your target, you're doing them a disservice. You have to be that adamant that your product or service is going to be that amazing and life-changing for their life that you believe it. Because if you don't believe it, who else is going to believe it?
Right.
You know, and I think it takes a little bit of pep talking yourself because like we mentioned early on, you know, we do have imposter syndrome. Everybody has doubts. Everybody has, you know, times where like, I don't know, is this even worth that? Da, 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 da. But you have to really believe it. You have to get yourself to the point that you believe it and you're ready to go out there and use your product and service to change lives, because at that point in time, it's really easier to sell because you don't want them to miss out. You don't want to not have them change their life, right?
Exactly. That's exactly it, because that's the whole point of, you know, a lot of us have that knowledge in our minds, including myself, where it's like, you know, I feel like everybody has that thing, whatever you want to call it, purpose or whatever. And it's like, we have the vision to see something very particular. And it's like that little tiny thing that can make a huge difference, whether it's in somebody's life as a coach, or a business owner to provide like a widget or like an experience or whatever it is. For some reason, we all have that thing, like nobody else sees that. And that's where we have to like teach it. Cause that's me. I'm just like, oh my goodness. Like, why are we not looking at the hold times on average for a business? Like when they call in, I'm like, hold time could also
because
mean
they
that
can't measure it.
What
gets
like,
measured
like
gets done, right?
It's crazy. I'm like, if you see, like, let's say the call time is long for that area, or can we compare it to another business? Why are their time shorter? Like what, like those are the things I want to look at. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's so many things that some people can see, but like, you know, so I guess that's where we learn what value we can provide, but we do have to believe in it and be like, look, like this can really change your business, like for the better. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Because it's your superpower. That's your X-ray vision. That's your superpower, right? It's all right. It's doing its own thing. Let it be great.
I like it.
Let it be great.
And put this up a little bit.
Perfect.
Yeah. And I love it. I mean, I love the idea when people really realize their superpower. And I know there's some people, I get messages sometimes if people are like, how can you find your superpower? And I don't think you necessarily, I don't know that it's, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know that it's something you can look for. I think it's really just one day it's like, aha, it just clicks. Boom.
It's discovered.
I think you have to explore though.
All you do is explore.
You need to explore for that superpower, but because if you don't look, if you don't go do, if you don't go experience the world, it's not going to come to you.
Oh no. Yeah, I agree with that.
So, you know, can I go to a specific place? No, but can I read? Can I dream? Can I ask? Can I talk?
Absolutely.
I no longer believe that this quote belongs to Annie Oakley, but when I was growing up, I was told that Annie Oakley said, I don't even know if that's appropriate attribution of the quote, but you're the same person that you were of every book that you read and every person that you met. Right? So how do you, I still think the quote's good. I don't think it fits, right? But I think it's really, really important to understand that you have to constantly grow in order to understand where you are and where you want to go and set those visions. And even with the money, right? Like even with the money, once you have some investing and diversifying all of that, just putting it all in there and then pushing it out because it can grow too. You have to put all of that together.
Well, and I think we all have our superpowers even with that because, you know, I said that I'm not great with money. I'm great on making money. I can see avenues of money making, of money growth, of that I'm great at. After it's made, it's not that I'm not interested, I'm just less interested, if that makes it, like, it's the high of, ooh, let's do this. And I can see those things easily. But it's afterward, I'm like, it's I already got it. It's gonna do
You're
something
a
else.
serial entrepreneur, not a business person. There's a difference, right?
I don't like the deep business. And I've had people argue with me on this fact, but if you know me deeply, you know that is not my strength. Just because I can do it doesn't mean that I'm long-term good at it, nor that I want to do it. Because if I don't want to, we're all like this. If we don't love something, even if we're proficient at it short-term, it's really hard to be great at it long-term because our heart's not in it. And my heart's not in all that. It's just not where it's at. So, and I think, and I think that's important when we're trying to figure out business dealings and figure out what we want to do and figuring out our superpower. Because I agree with what you said, Angela. You said it 100%. And I'm glad you clarified that, because I didn't mean that I meant you can't go target, I want this to be my superpower, I'm going to go find it. That's what I was meaning. But the way you said it was perfect, because yes, you have to get out there. You have to read. You have to explore. And you can have more than one superpower. You may experience something and all of a sudden it's like a light comes on. You're like, wow, I thought that was my superpower, but this. Because I think, the universe is always revealing new pieces that we're supposed to really be in, that we're supposed to share with the world. And I think it brings us back to kind of, Stacey, with you last week in the challenge and all those things. As nervous as you was, you did amazing. But
thank you.
You were chosen to be able to share this superpower with the world. And, you have to really start challenging yourself to step in there, challenging yourself that now that you've figured out, okay, this is my passion, I can do this. Now the next step is figuring out, how do you get some money? How do you get the money?
Yeah.
Keep it growing. How do you, get the courage to ask for the dollars? Because, that's, we'll be honest, that's what business is. It is that recycling. It is that, the give and take, because you've got knowledge, you've got passion, you've got these things that you can give. And you have to be able to receive and return. It's that full motion that really makes it magic.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. That's literally where my brain is at, and I think that was like the beauty of taking that first step on last week's show, because I think sometimes, like, in our minds, we have all these things, and what happens is we see it in our head, but it's still clouded. It's not 100% clear until you take that first step. So now that I took that first step, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna post these videos. And then I asked myself, I'm like, okay, but what are you doing after that? Like, you're not gonna make money off the video. It's like, you're gonna get a lot of people, but what are you gonna do when somebody calls you? You know what I mean? Like, what happens? Like, how are you gonna make the sale? You know what I mean? So at least now I'm thinking that way. And with your help as well, Angela, like, I'm like, okay, all right, we got to go over this budget again. Like, we got to make sure, like, we're spending in areas that's going to help us capitalize the business. And is there a cost that is missing from here? Because that's what I'm starting to think now, because yes, I pay to stream and do this and do that. However, one of the main things that I want to also start is that I spoke with Maria about is my quality theory show. I might change the name of that. It might be just Price Up show. But anyway, so it's like that show is going to be focused specifically on what I'm doing, so that's important to build out. There's going to be costs associated with that, but then also, where are people going to go to find me? You know what I mean? Like, I need a site or a page or a group, so now I'm starting to think that way. And that's why I'm like so grateful for, even being on this show, because now I'm starting to see like how I'm going to start to connect these dots to lead into that monetization. But then the monetization has to make sense so that that cost can go back into the business, so then we can continue to grow, whether it's employees or clients, because I could see the end result. Like, I see it.
Yeah.
Clients before employees in this case. Money before before out.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah, absolutely. And don't get so caught up in the weeds thinking that you have to, because I see a lot of business, and again, I did the same thing, so don't feel bad about this, but it's like you mentioned, you want the show, you want the group, you need this and that, and that's great, but pick one thing and go ahead and do that and figure out throw it out there and see if it works. So if it doesn't, figure out where you need to focus your money, time, energy, mindset, all the things. Don't feel like that you have to be 100% available all the places all the time. And if you are on a specific platform, you're not getting the traction there, there is nothing wrong. I don't care. If some other marketing person told you can't do this, tell them to call me, because you can stop being available on that platform and pivot your time, energy, and money to another platform and see how it's panning out there. Nobody says you can't stop. You can stop and focus elsewhere. If you end up with more dollars, more time, whatever later, you can always pivot back and amp that one back up. But if you're not getting traction there, there's no sense in throwing it to the wall and hoping it's going to stick one day.
Yeah.
Because
that's
one day may never come.
I was like, let's see, because I obtained some information about how this, also working with you, Maria, like I realized like, oh my God, these are all algorithms. Like this is that, like, remember I asked you like about the text and Facebook and stuff. I was like, wait a minute, what? More people see it if I do this versus this? So I said, let me just keep doing, and I'm like, oh, you know what I mean? And it's just interesting to see that, because when you use these new tools as just like posting, just mindless posting, like, hey, this is funny, this is this, but we get engagement, but what is it for? What is it for? You know what I mean? Yeah. So I started to like look at that and I'm like, wait, this works.
Yeah.
Literally. But it's interesting. I have to say, it is an interesting space to be in, to start to realize that. Also, what I wanted to, comment on is what you were saying, that I think even sometimes with myself, I feel like I have to stay right there. Like, you can't, you started this way, it must go this way. And I'm like, oh, you don't have to do that. Like, if it's not working here, like, stop. Like, go here and start here. And just same thing with business. It's like, okay, if you're selling these widgets, okay, is it that the widget needs improvement? Is it that the coaching needs improvement? Is that this is not the vision? Like, maybe you need to change the vision. Like, the vision stays the same, but maybe the thing of how we manifest the vision needs to change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it could be a timing thing. It could be that your heart's on it. I suck at Twitter. We manage some client accounts for Twitter, and their accounts do great. I completely suck at Twitter. And part of that is because I hate Twitter. My brain doesn't work like Twitter. I don't really care about Twitter. It's just the way it works. But I have other people who that's their main place, and they're in the same industry. So it's not an industry thing. I think it goes back to the thing that we talk about a lot, which is that you are within your business. We were going to say that it all goes together, because I'm not going to think in a Twitter version of what's going to really work well on Twitter with the way that I think, because I don't care about Twitter. I do better on Facebook actually than I do any of them. And then second, Instagram. But it's, don't feel like you have to be all the places, and don't feel bad about trying, like you said, trying TikTok, and you get some traction there, and then you throw some stuff out on Instagram. It does great. If it fizzles, whatever, pivot back to it later as you have time. And I think that's a big thing early on, is that we try to give ourselves these rules to follow. And there's some basic, business rules, pay your taxes, have a budget, some specific business tools that or business rules that you want to have. But as far as some of those things, it's okay to just try it and see what works. And if it doesn't work right now, pivot, try something else, and keep going back and forth. Because you mentioned algorithms. Nobody's ever going to win the algorithm game. I don't care who you are. I've gone through countless classes. They change it. I've called Facebook, because I've got a girl that I work with, some on Facebook, where I'm Blueprint certified, and half the time I get the email about what's changed before she does. So, I mean, you're not going to win the algorithm game. It's great to kind of study and read and watch videos, but don't pour your every waking second on trying to win the algorithm game, because as soon as you, quote unquote, figure it out, they're going to flip and change it. And so it's great. Read, enjoy, experience it. But really, the biggest thing is just showing up as who you really are, because all in all, all of them have a social underlying. So if you can figure out the personalization game, the social side of it, the connection side of it, and you can pepper in some of the algorithm things, I think that is way, 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 way above and beyond. And you're going to save money by not just, trying to spray and pray some different, boosts and all these things to see people waste their money on. But I'm off my tangent now. Sorry. Angela is, I'm not sure if she's listening or judging.
I'm not listening and I am not judging.
Okay. Well,
I am not judging. I am definitely listening.
All right. So anyway, so yeah, the all in all, I am going to, because we only got like 2 minutes left. All in all, I think the biggest thing is you want to make sure the basic foundational framework of your business is intact, on point to save money. I know the old adage is a penny saved is better than a penny earned. And honestly, it's more so in a lot of ways, just because you're not paying out all the taxes and all the things on it. So save those dollars and really think about how you're spending and where you're placing them. And don't be afraid to be able to ask for the dollars from your clients you're providing that value for. And you have to really believe it. So that's kind of my few takeaways, but I'm going to let Angela give her takeaways.
I mean, I'm always going to say structured approach, disciplined approach. Find that discipline that works for you and make sure that you have that planning day and review it on a regular basis. All the steps in between are really important, but if you can at least get those 2 end caps there, you can help keep yourself on track.
Absolutely. And I know another thing we were going to kind of discuss was funding and credit. And without Chanel being here, I didn't want to dive into that, but we'll circle back and touch on that another day. Obviously, there's lots of funding options out there. Obviously, credit is important within a business. There's lots of different options. But, for now, as far as that subject goes, just start reading, educating yourself, and don't jump on all these quote unquote too good to be true business funding emails that you get as soon as you open a business. You get, tons of emails and calls and all these things. Like I've seen so many business owners get wrapped up in and get into trouble. So that's my only kind of, warning when it comes to that kind of stuff. But we will circle back with its own. I think that could be an entire show of its own because that's a lot to dig into. It's not my specialty. So that is all for now. But we will be back next week at 1 p.m. Eastern time for another episode of Business Acceleration Playbook. And Stacey, thank you so much for being a special guest co-host today. And thank you for letting us kind of grill you on our hot seat. And if you're interested yeah, exactly. We love it. You secretly love it. I know you. So if you're interested, if you're interested in being a guest in our hot seat for a Business Acceleration Playbook, please feel free to reach out. I think there is a sign-up sheet floating around somewhere. I'll try to post it onto the page for Business Acceleration Playbook where you can fill out the questionnaire because we are going to be taking a few different entrepreneurs and small businesses, no matter where you're at level-wise, to be able to kind of walk through some steps. We're not great at all the things, but like everybody, we're great at some of the things, and it takes multiple eyes on something to really make something work well, and that's the reason we coach and consult. That's the reason we use coaches and consultants. So until next week, thank you so much for being the best part of Business Acceleration Playbook. Bye.
Thank you.